She was old now, 117 years, kept healthy by the same medical technology that had made humans virtually ageless. But she was tired. Tired of watching. Tired of waiting for the galaxy to force humanity's hand again. Admiral. Commander Park, now Admiral Park, approached quietly. We received a transmission from the Galactic Council. The Threen situation. They've recalled their probes. Sent formal apologies. Passed new resolutions strengthening our border protections. Park paused. Ambassador Merrick sent a personal message. He wanted you to know that not all species forget. Vance smiled slightly. Zithra's student. Her greatest achievement, according to Council records. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the twin suns set over Terra Nova's purple-leaved forests. Around them, human civilization thrived, 100 worlds, tens of billions of people, living in peace and prosperity. Do you think we'll ever be able to come out? Park asked quietly. To join the galaxy properly? Vance considered the question. I hope so. Someday. When the galaxy grows up enough to see us as neighbors instead of threats or resources. That could take centuries. Then we have time. Vance turned to look at her old friend. Humanity's gift has always been patience. We can wait. We can build. And when the galaxy is finally ready, truly ready, we'll be here. And if they're never ready, then we'll still be here. Living well. Raising children. Creating art. Exploring our own space. Being happy. She smiled. The galaxy doesn't define us, Park. We define ourselves. As they walked back toward the city, Vance thought about all the species out there. Some grateful. Some curious. Some afraid. All of them watching the quarantine zone, wondering what humanity had become. Let them wonder, she thought. Let them imagine. Let them build their own legends about the silent protectors in the darkness. Because the truth was simpler than any legend. Humanity hadn't become monsters. Humanity hadn't become gods. Humanity had simply become wise enough to know that sometimes the greatest strength was knowing when not to use it. 300 years after the Valkyrie War, the galaxy held its breath. The Zarathi crisis had emerged, not a military threat, but an existential one. A massive stellar anomaly was expanding through the galactic core, threatening to destabilize 1,000 solar systems. Millions of worlds faced evacuation. Billions of lives hung in the balance. The Council had tried everything. Every technology, every scientific mind, every possible solution. Nothing worked. In the Council chamber, now rebuilt 5 times since Zithra's era, the current High Chancellor looked at the empty chair that was always kept for humanity. The chair that had never been filled. The invitation that had never been accepted. Should we call them again? Someone asked. For what? Another responded. They're warriors, not miracle workers. But deep in the Council's archives, a new generation of leaders found Zithra's old records. Found her personal notes about humanity. And in those notes, a single line that changed everything. They didn't save us with weapons. They saved us with certainty. With the absolute knowledge that some things are worth protecting, no matter the cost. The transmission was sent. Not a plea for help. Not a demand. Just information. Just the truth, the galaxy is dying, and we don't know how to save it. For 30 days, there was no response. Then, on the 31st day, a message arrived. A different voice this time. Younger. But with the same absolute certainty. This is Captain Marcus Vance, 3rd generation, Terran Science Fleet. We've been monitoring the anomaly. We believe we can help. Transmitting solution parameters now. The data that followed rewrote physics. It showed methods of stellar manipulation that shouldn't have been possible. It included detailed instructions, safety protocols, and offers of human engineering support. But most importantly, it included something else. A personal message. To the Galactic Council, we've been listening. We've been learning. We've seen your growth, your compassion, your efforts to remember. We see that you're ready. When this crisis is over, when your worlds are safe, let's talk. Perhaps it's time humanity came home to the galaxy. Captain Vance out. In the council chamber, beings from 100 species wept with relief and joy. The child had finally grown up enough for the parent to return. Admiral Helena Vance, now 147 years old, stood in her garden one last time. She'd heard the transmission. Heard her great-grandson extending the hand she'd always hoped humanity could extend. We did it, she whispered to the stars. To Zithra's memory. To all the species that had waited so patiently. We waited long enough. We stayed strong enough. We loved enough. Around her, Terra Nova prepared for the first formal diplomatic mission in 3 centuries. Humanity was coming home. Not as conquerors. Not as saviors. Not even as protectors. Just as neighbors. Ready, at last, to share the galaxy with those who'd learned to deserve it. The end. The awakening. Earth 72 hours after New Helsinki. The world didn't sleep anymore. In Shanghai, factory workers welded hull plating at 3 a.m., their faces lit by sparks and fury. In Moscow, physicists who hadn't spoken in years now shared equations on chalkboards that stretched across entire walls. In Sao Paulo, recruitment centers had lines that wrapped around city blocks, volunteers, every one of them. Old men. Young women. Students. Teachers. People who had never held a gun. They all wanted the same thing. In Washington, London, Lagos, Delhi, Tokyo, the lights stayed on. The machines never stopped. Humanity had become a single organism, every cell working toward one purpose. War. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the UNS Indomitable, Earth's first true warship, and watched the planet below. She was 52. Cuban American. 3 wars behind her, all of them on Earth. She'd thought she was done with death. She was wrong. Admiral. A young ensign approached, tablet in hand. The final production reports. Elena took the tablet. Her eyes scanned the numbers. 17 new destroyer-class vessels completed. 4 carriers entering final assembly. Railgun production exceeded projections by 40%. Antimatter reserves at 86% capacity. 72 hours. Humanity had done in 3 days what most species needed 3 years to accomplish. How, the ensign whispered, reading over her shoulder. How did we do this? Elena didn't look away from Earth. Because they killed our children. The ensign fell silent. Elena handed back the tablet. Assemble the command staff. We move in 6 hours. Yes, ma'am. As the ensign left, Elena pressed her palm against the cold viewport. Down there, somewhere in the mountains of Colorado, her own daughter was safe. 8 years old. Brown eyes. Loved to draw. Just like Mateo Torres had. Elena's reflection stared back at her in the glass, older now, harder. She'd been a soldier her whole life, but this was different. This wasn't about territory. It wasn't about politics. This was about making sure no mother ever had to watch her child burn again. We're coming, she whispered. Galactic Council Headquarters Nexus Prime Neutral Space. High Arbiter Solène of the Threll Consortium stood before the council chamber, her 6 eyes blinking in confusion as she read the report. Is this accurate? She asked. The intelligence coordinator, a Vesh named Thryyk, nodded his crystalline head. Confirmed by 3 separate observation posts, High Arbiter. Humanity has mobilized its entire species. Solen looked at the holoscreen. It showed Earth's orbital space, now filled with ships. Hundreds of them. Construction continued on dozens more. In 3 days, another council member gasped. That's impossible. Apparently not, Thryyk replied. Councillor Varn of the Pelgri Collective leaned forward. What are they building? Cargo haulers? Colony ships? Thryyk's crystalline face betrayed no emotion. Warships. Silence. Councillor Varn laughed, a harsh, clicking sound. Warships? Have they lost their minds? They're attacking the Valoran Dominion. The Valorans have conquered 47 worlds. They have the third largest fleet in the galaxy. I am aware, Thryyk said quietly. And humanity has, what? 30 years of spaceflight experience. No allies. No standing military. Solen stared at the screen. At the ships. At the factories burning bright on Earth's night side. They have something else. What? She thought of the footage she'd seen. New Helsinki. The fires. The children. Rage, she whispered. Varn scoffed. Rage doesn't win wars, High Arbiter. Firepower does. Strategy does. And humanity has neither. Then why, Solen asked slowly, do I feel afraid for the Valorans? The chamber went silent. Valoran Dominion High Command Draunaka Prime. Supreme Commander Kaeldar stood before the War Council, his 4 arms spread in dismissal. They are sending how many ships? War Master Thane growled. 47 confirmed vessels, the intelligence officer reported. Primitive designs. Kinetic weapons. Fusion drives. No shielding technology. Thane laughed. 47 ships. Against the Dominion. This isn't a war, it's a culling. Kaeldar nodded. Agreed. Dispatched the 6th Fleet. 300 vessels should be more than sufficient to crush this protest. Do we know their target? Another officer asked. They are heading directly toward us. Toward Draunaka Prime. The room erupted in laughter. They're attacking the homeworld. Thane roared. These humans are either suicidal or stupid. Kaeldar's mandibles clicked. Perhaps both. Regardless, they will die. And the galaxy will remember, humanity challenged the Dominion. He turned toward the viewport, gazing out at the orbital defense platforms, the hundreds of warships docked in formation, the impenetrable fortress of Valoran power. And humanity was erased. The War Council cheered. But Kaeldar didn't join them. Because something gnawed at the back of his mind. Something he couldn't name. He thought of New Helsinki. Of how easily it burned. And he wondered, for just a moment, what it must have looked like from Earth. He pushed the thought away. It didn't matter. Humans were weak. This war would be over in days. UNS Indomitable Command Bridge en route to Valoran space. Elena stood at the command console, surrounded by holoscreens showing ship formations, weapon status, fuel reserves. Around her, officers worked in tense silence. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission, the communications officer said. It's the Galactic Council. Elena didn't move. Play it. The holoscreen flickered. High Arbiter Solen appeared, her 6 eyes wide with concern. Admiral Vasquez, I am High Arbiter Solen of the Galactic Council. I urge you to reconsider this course of action. The Valoran Dominion is a formidable enemy. This conflict will result in catastrophic losses for your species. Please, stand down. Let diplomacy. Elena raised a hand. The transmission cut. Her officers stared at her. Ma'am, the communications officer whispered. Elena's voice was calm. Cold. Final. We didn't come here to talk. She turned toward the viewport. In the distance, the first stars of Valoran space glittered. Weapon status. All systems online, Admiral. Fleet formation. Holding steady. Good. She leaned forward, her eyes locked on the darkness ahead. Then let's show them what happens when you make humanity angry. Behind her, every officer stood a little straighter. Every hand moved a little faster. Because they all felt it now. The fire. The fury. The promise. Humanity was no longer the weak species begging for a seat at the table. Humanity was the storm. And the Valorans were about to learn what that meant. First blood. Valoran Border Patrol Station Gamma, 70340 hours. Officer Dren yawned at his console, halfway through another boring watch shift. Nothing ever happened out here on the edge of Valoran space. Just empty void, distant stars, and the occasional cargo freighter requesting passage clearance. He scrolled through reports with one claw, eating his ration pack with another. Then his scanner pinged. Dren frowned. He set down his food and checked the display. 47 contacts. Moving fast. Heading directly toward the border. Ha! He leaned closer. Probably a merchant convoy. Maybe refugees from one of the rim worlds. He opened a standard hailing channel. Unidentified vessels, this is Valoran Border Control. State your origin and intent. Silence. Dren's frown deepened. Unidentified vessels, you are entering restricted Valoran space. Respond immediately or be fired upon. Still nothing. Then the lead ship responded. Not with words. With weapons. A railgun slug, a telephone pole-sized piece of tungsten traveling at 3% the speed of light, punched through the station's hull like tissue paper. The impact sheared the entire eastern wing off in a shower of debris and bodies. Dren died before he could scream. The human fleet didn't slow down. UNS Indomitable Command Bridge. Border station destroyed, Admiral, the weapons officer reported, voice steady. Elena didn't blink. Noted. Continue on course. Ma'am, we're receiving multiple transmissions from Valoran ships in system. They're demanding we stand down. Ignore them. Admiral, they're launching interceptors, 43 contacts inbound. Elena turned toward her tactical officer. Commander Hayes. Show them what Earth's children learn to build. Commander Marcus Hayes, a former USAF pilot with ice in his veins, allowed himself the smallest smile. With pleasure, ma'am. He opened fleet-wide comms. All ships, weapons free. Target priority, anything that moves. Let's make this quick. Valoran Interceptor Wing led pilot Croth. Croth had been flying for the Dominion for 16 cycles. He'd fought pirates, rebels, insurgents. He was a decorated warrior, confident in his skills and his ship. He wasn't ready for what came next. The human fleet didn't dodge. Didn't evade. They flew straight at the Valoran interceptors like they didn't care about the danger. Arrogant fools, Croth hissed. He locked onto the lead human ship, a destroyer-class vessel, primitive design, no visible shielding. Easy prey. He fired. His plasma torpedo streaked forward. And detonated uselessly against a shimmering barrier that hadn't been there a second ago. What? The human ship returned fire. Not with plasma. Not with lasers. With metal. A stream of magnetically accelerated tungsten rounds, each one moving at hypersonic speeds, tore through Crotha's interceptor wing like a chainsaw through flesh. Ships exploded. Pilots screamed. In 6 seconds, half the wing was gone. Croth yanked his controls, diving hard, trying to escape. The human destroyer rolled with him. Matched his move. Stayed on him. Crotha's eyes widened. How? The last thing he saw was the muzzle flash. UNS Indomitable Bridge. Enemy interceptors neutralized, Hayes reported. Elena watched the tactical display. 43 red contacts blinked out. 0 blue losses. Casualties? None, ma'am. Around the bridge, officers exchanged glances. They'd just won their first engagement. Against the Valorans. And it hadn't even been close. Admiral, the sensors officer said quietly. We're being scanned. Multiple Valoran capital ships are moving into position. Looks like a full battle group. 300 vessels. Elena stared at the screen. 300 ships. The Sixth Fleet, exactly as expected. Her crew looked at her. Waiting. She thought of Mateo Torres. Of his mother. Of 12,000 people who'd never had a chance to fight back. All ships, she said, her voice carrying across every vessel in the human fleet. This is Admiral Vasquez. You all know why we're here. You all know what they did. She paused. Today, we teach them what it costs to murder children. Today, we show them that humanity doesn't forgive. We don't forget. And we sure as hell don't run. She leaned forward. All ships, attack. Valoran Sixth Fleet flagship Eternal Wrath. War Master Corvin watched the human fleet approach on his tactical display. 47 ships against 300. He laughed. Are they serious? His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Thex, nodded. They're not slowing down, War Master. They're accelerating. Then they're suicidal. Corvin waved a claw dismissively. All ships, battle formation. Let's end this quickly. I want to be home for. The humans opened fire. And everything changed. The human fleet didn't fight like anyone Corvin had ever seen. They didn't form defensive lines. Didn't establish firing positions. Didn't use tactics. They charged. 47 ships, engines burning at maximum thrust, dove straight into the Valoran formation like a spear into flesh. Railguns blazed. Missile pods launched. Point defense lasers turned space into a web of light and death. Valoran ships exploded. Not from lucky hits. Not from overwhelming firepower. But from precision. Every human shot was calculated. Every trajectory perfect. Their ships moved like wolves, coordinated, relentless, intelligent. They targeted engines. Weapon arrays. Bridge sections. They didn't waste ammunition. They didn't miss. And they didn't stop. Evasive maneuvers. Corvin roared. But the humans were already there. A human destroyer rolled beneath the Eternal Wrath's belly and fired a full railgun salvo directly into the unshielded reactor section. The flagship shuddered. Alarms screamed. Every human shot was calculated. Every trajectory perfect. Their ships moved like wolves, coordinated, relentless, intelligent. They targeted engines. Weapon arrays. Bridge sections. They didn't waste ammunition. They didn't miss. And they didn't stop. Evasive maneuvers. Corvin roared. But the humans were already there. A human destroyer rolled beneath the Eternal Wrath's belly and fired a full railgun salvo directly into the unshielded reactor section. The flagship shuddered. Alarms screamed. Shields down. Hull breach on decks 9 through 14. Corvin stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His 300-ship fleet was losing. How? Thex whispered. They're primitives. They don't even have shielding technology. Then why are they winning? Corvin screamed. On the view screen, a human carrier launched swarms of fighter drones, tiny, fast, expendable. They swarmed Valoran cruisers like insects, overwhelming point defenses, detonating against hulls in calculated suicide runs. Another Valoran ship exploded. Then another. Then 5 more. War Master, we've lost 60 ships. Retreat. All ships retreat. But the humans didn't let them. UNS Indomitable Bridge. They're breaking formation, Hayes reported, grinning now. Running. Elena's voice was ice. Don't let them. The human fleet surged forward. Destroyers hunted cruisers. Fighters chased interceptors. Missile barrages overwhelmed defensive screens. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was an execution. Elena watched the Valoran flagship, the Eternal Wrath, trying to escape, engines burning, trailing atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. Target that ship, she said quietly. Ma'am. I want everyone in this fleet to see what happens when you murder civilians. Hayes didn't hesitate. Admiral. All ships, focus fire on the flagship. 17 human vessels turned as one. Their railguns locked. And fired. Valoran flagship Eternal Wrath Bridge. Corvin saw the shots coming. Dozens of tungsten rounds, streaking through space like the judgment of gods. He tried to speak. Tried to order something, anything. The rounds hit. The Eternal Wrath disintegrated. Not exploded. Disintegrated. The kinetic force was so immense that the ship simply ceased to exist, torn apart into a cloud of shrapnel and fire. 3,000 Valoran crew died in an instant. And across the fleet, every remaining Valoran ship saw it happen. They ran. Aftermath 6 hours later. The Valoran 6th Fleet was gone. 300 ships reduced to wreckage and escape pods. Human casualties, 19 wounded. 0 dead. Elena stood on the bridge, staring at the debris field. Admiral, Hayes said quietly. We're receiving a transmission. It's from Valoran High Command. Put it through. The holoscreen flickered. Supreme Commander Kaeldar appeared, his 4 arms trembling with barely controlled rage. You, animals, he hissed. You think you've won? This was one battle. The Dominion has thousands of ships. Elena's voice cut through like a blade. Then you'd better start building more. Kaeldar's mandibles clicked in fury. You've made a mistake, human. We will hunt your species to extinction. We will burn every human world. We will. No. Elena leaned forward. You will die. Just like you made our children die. And when your homeworld burns, when your people scream, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that you started this. She paused. We're going to finish it. She cut the transmission. Silence filled the bridge. Then Hayes spoke. Orders, Admiral. Elena stared out at the stars. Plot a course for Draunaka Prime. We're going to pay them a visit. Around her, the crew began to move. Preparing. Calculating. Ready. Humanity had tasted blood. And they were still hungry.